We have a problem, ladies and gentlemen, that is with this book of Esther. The reason why we have a problem is there's some controversy over this book. By the way, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Hope you all are doing well. And we are going through, continuing on our study as we make our way through. We only have a few more books left. We have Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. We also have Ezra, Nehemiah. But we also are going through Esther. Now, if you are paying attention to the chronological timeline, which you should be, because we are trying to get used to having a consistent hermeneutic. Chronology naturally plays into having a sound and consistent hermeneutic. No matter what your hermeneutic is, doesn't have to be mine. But if it's not consistent, then it's not a hermeneutic. It's just your opinion. And you're going to turn around and make the words fit what you want them to mean. So there has to be some sort of consistency. And in order for there to be some consistency, you've got to also account for chronology. What do I mean by chronology? Chronology is that we are taking into account the time. In other words, what's happening. In other words, this was said here. Does it show up again later? And so because we're keeping track of chronology, I want you to notice something on this timeline. On this timeline, as we've made our way through, we are going in terms of what happens next. And so where should we be as we are leaving Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel? Well, it should not be Esther. The reason why it should not be Esther is because Esther is likely almost 100 years away from where we are now. So we are kind of skipping Esther out of turn, but I do want to go ahead and cover it now, covering the book now. By the way, I think the book, personally, I wish they would rename the book. I wish they would rename the book to Mordecai. I think Mordecai is the star of the show. I think he's easily the most important character in the show. And so there's some issues, though, with the book of Esther. I don't know why I have this typed in incorrectly. But there are some issues with the book of Esther. Namely, that this is one of the few books in the Bible where there is no one in the New Testament that quotes the book of Esther. Now, it's not the only book that doesn't have an actual direct quote in the New Testament. There are other books in the New Testament that are not quoted. By the way, would you guys happen to know which other books in the New Testament from the Old Testament that are not quoted? Esther sticks out in a way that's different from the rest of them, which brings about some sort of controversy as it regards to Esther being included. Now, the book of Esther was included in the Hebrew canon by the Jews. So before there was a church, there was never really any kind of controversy after that, but it was accepted by the Jews. But now as we go back and look, we wonder, wait a second, why is this book included? Because it's not quoted in the New Testament. There's no one that quotes this particular book. Well, there are other books that have some allusion to or some sort of citation or other things like that, where there's some sort of kind of comparative phrases that are linked to this book, but not to the book of Esther. Other books in the New Testament that are not quoted would be Song of Solomon. We also have Ecclesiastes, Ezra, and Nehemiah. So Esther is not the only book that is not quoted. Here's something else. Esther is the only book that doesn't mention God. So that's also, I guess, a mark against it, that it does not mention the name of God or reference to him. However, I think we do show the beauty of God's provision, and we'll see that that's kind of the point of this book. The main reason why this book was included, you'll see in just a little bit. Something else that's a little bit troubling about it. Again, I believe that the book should be included, but then again, I am not a textual critic, and so most of my beliefs, just like yours, are because of someone else's beliefs, right? Because of the scholars who, by and large, including the Jewish scholars, would say that this book has been accepted by the Hebrew believing body, that is, by the Jews. But something else about this book that kind of made it a little bit controversial is that there is no historical account of this woman named Esther as the king's wife, as the queen. We do have historical accounts of there being either Ahasuerus or Xerxes. We do have that. We do have historical confirmation that there was a king Xerxes and his son Artaxerxes. We do have that. We even have confirmation that his wife Vashti, who her name was also, I think it's Artemis. I'll see her name. I've got it written down somewhere else, but her name is also included. However, there is a space in between these particular women. There's a chronological time where there's a gap where she could have been the king's wife for this particular time. Now, did they have any children? There's no historical account for that, but we do know that there is, obviously, Xerxes had a son. So, and this is kind of where we're picking up at. We're going to go ahead and pick up on this in this book, even though where this book would have been written was probably around between 470, 480, 470, 460 BC. And there's a reason for it. There is a particular feast that the Jews observe that is because of what happens in Esther. Now, it's not one of the feasts that God commands them to serve, but it is a feast that the Jews do observe. And for that particular reason, it's the strongest reason why this particular book was included. Now, that being stated, let's go ahead and jump into this book. And like I said before, I think this book is better known as Mordecai. And if we want to share billing, fine. Esther and Mordecai, the book of Esther and Mordecai. But clearly the star of the show is Mordecai, who would use, or now it's not to say that Esther is not important, because obviously she is important. I mean, her role is without question very important. As a matter of fact, towards the end, we're going to find out that Mordecai gets a role as leadership. But before we get there, Esther 1:1. Now it took place in the days of Ahasuerus, and again, some versions might say Xerxes. Ahasuerus, the days of Ahasuerus, the Ahasuerus who reigned from India to Ethiopia over 127 provinces. In those days, King Ahasuerus sat on his royal throne, which was at the citadel in Susa. In the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all the princes and attendants, the officers of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of his provinces being in his presence. And he displayed the riches of his royal glory and the splendor of his great majesty for many days, 180 days. So for half a year, he is trying to show how awesome he is. I guess that's something that kings would do, right? When these days were completed, the king gave a banquet lasting 7 days for all the people who were present at the citadel in Susa, from the greatest to the least, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were hangings of fine white and violet linen, held by cords of fine purple linen on silver rings and marbles. In other words, this place was decked out. Now, here's where we get into the problems. We drop down to verse 10. In verse 10, on the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine. In other words, the king was drunk. When his heart was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcas, the 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus, to bring Queen Vashti before the king with her royal crown, in order to display her beauty to the people and the princess, for she was beautiful. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command delivered by the eunuchs. Then the king became very angry, and his wrath burned within him. Now, let's pause for a second. No one really knows exactly what the issue was here. Was he asking her to do something inappropriate? We don't know. Something that might have been sexual? We don't know. Was just wanted her to just kind of be on display like she was a piece of meat, like a statue? We don't know. We do know that his drunken state was the reason for that, and we'll see that later, because he says that after he's sober and his mind comes to him, he kind of regrets what he did and what he commanded Vashti. But that being the case, and by the way, we do know that they did have sons, and possibly Artaxerxes was her son by her, and some even speculated that she was pregnant with him, and so that might have been one of the reasons or the reason why. We don't know. We don't know. The Bible doesn't tell us enough, so we'll go ahead and continue. But she's decided, I'm not doing it. Nope, sorry. Get you somebody else. It won't be me. Apparently, this woman was gorgeous. Apparently, she was fine, and he wanted everyone to see it. Now, I don't know how he wanted everyone to see her, but she wasn't having it, and so he's upset. And there's always somebody in your life. Which, by the way, if you've got these somebodies like this in your life, get rid of them. There's always someone who will help you be angry. Have you ever noticed that? Do me a favor. Think back to all the times that you've gotten in trouble and there was someone there that wanted to help you be angry. If you can think of the people who have helped you to be angry, who have told you that you were right in your anger, get rid of those friends. Those are the kind of friends that, as they say, would put a key in your back and turn it or gas you up and get you to do something. Get rid of those people. Those are the kind of people that are no good. Give me 1 second. This horrible cat is here, and there's no one to come get this cat. Give me 1 second. I'm going to have to give me another roommate. This is his bathroom, and I just knew it. It never fails, guys. When I want to come on, he wants to come on. He is jealous. Yeah. Well, no. Truth be told, stay right there. Stay right there. You stay right there. I'm talking to my granddaughter. When this cat finishes, when he finishes, has he finished using the bathroom? Okay, stay right there. You stay right there. Don't move. Just stay right there. All right. I'll tell you. And now the dogs. I don't know what's going on. You know what? All the animals are going crazy. The dogs are barking. Is he through? Okay, now close the door on him when he leaves. Grab him. Yeah, there he goes. Honey, pick him up and take him out. There you go. And then close the door. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rent me an office somewhere. Close it all the way, sweetie. Come back and close the door all the way. Talk to my granddaughter. Eden? Oh, Lord. Let me do something. It's almost as though everybody wants to come and pick on me and mess with me. I think my wife is still there. I think she hadn't left just yet. So, yeah, I'm gonna rent me a place. I'm gonna or go outside. I'm gonna start doing these live streams outside. I don't even know where I left off at. Anyway, I'm gonna go back and cut all of this off. I'm gonna try to be real professional, which I'm not. But I'm gonna try to be professional. Anyway, the point that I was making: if you've got friends who love to be a part of helping you be angry, who love to see your indignation come out, who want to see you become the kind of person that they could only wish to be, I was asking you to come and close the door. If you got those kind of friends who are more than willing to help you be angry, if you got those kind of friends who like to see you get back at someone, let them go. You could probably think about all the times that you've gotten into it, and that one friend, you call them that one friend, was always right there supporting you. They weren't. Anyone that will see you angry and will not calm you down is not a friend. Let me just say that. Now, it took me a while to get that, to learn that, but that's not what friends do. And so the king, he's got wise men. He's got folks around him who understood the times, for it was the custom of the king, so to speak, before all who knew the law and justice and were close to him. And here are these names that I'm not going to pronounce, who had access to the king's presence and sat in the first place in the kingdom. According to the law, what is to be done with Queen Vashti, because she did not obey the command of King Ahasuerus that he delivered by the eunuchs. In the presence of the king and the princes, Memucan, that sounds like a guy named Memucan. Memucan said, Queen Vashti has wronged not only the king, but also all the princes and all the peoples who are at the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's conduct will become known to all the women, causing them to look with contempt. Now, there is this rule of the Medes and the Persians, but he still is king. It's not as though people respect him because he's a godly person, an honorable person, but he's the king. So therefore, if he wanted to say, I was in error and she was right, he could have done so. But so he says they don't want others to look down on you because of what she's done. She's embarrassed you in front of them. So King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought into his presence, but she did not come. This day, the ladies of Persia and Media who have heard of the queen's conduct will speak in the same way to all the king's princes, and there will be plenty of contempt and anger. You know what they're saying? Doggone it, the men are saying, we got to nip this in the bud. If we don't stop this, all of our wives are going to start running their mouths and thinking they can talk back to us, and we can't have this. That's what they're saying here. They're saying we don't want all the women to hear about the queen's conduct and come back and speak the same way to us, to the princes, to all the leaders. We don't want that kind of contempt at home. So make sure, king, because we can't do it, make sure you help us to keep these women in their place. Again, if you got those kind of friends, let them go. They're not your friends, right? There's always somebody that wants you to do the heavy lifting. There's always somebody that wants you to do the dirty work, because why? They can't do it. Verse 19, if it pleases the king, let a royal edict be issued by him, and let it be written in the law of the Persians and Media, so that it cannot be repealed, that Vashti may no longer come into the presence of the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal position to another who is more worthy. So let's now enter a new edict. Let's punish her so that the other women will not know. They're not doing it for the sanctity of the position. They're not doing it for the honor of him being king. No, they're doing it for themselves. And again, one more time, if you've got friends like that, recognize them and leave them alone. When the king's edict, which we will make, is heard throughout all his kingdom, great as it is, then all the women will give honor to their husbands, great and small. See what I mean? These are weak men who want there to be a law to say, women, you got to be quiet. That's what this is for. So this word pleased the king and the princes, and the king did as Memucan proposed. I'm sorry, it's just that name Memucan. So he sent letters to all the king's provinces, to each of the provinces according to the script, and to every people according to their language, that every man should be master in his own house. Now, I will say that is probably a good thing. Isn't that right, honey? That every man should be master in his own house, and the one who speaks in the language of his own people. And so what does he do? He acquiesces to their commands. Well, that does open the door for Queen Esther. After these things, when the anger of the king Ahasuerus had subsided, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. So there he is. He's having a moment of regret. Then the king's attendants who served him said, let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king. Let the king appoint overseers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather every beautiful young virgin of the city of the citadel of Susa to the harem. And this is where we see Esther is going to make her entrance. He says, into the custody of Haggai, the king's eunuchs, who is in charge of the women, and let their cosmetics be given them. Then let the young lady who pleases the king be queen in place of Vashti. Now, some of you ladies take a long time to get ready. And every husband can say amen 4 or 5 times. But this was a lot longer than even you ladies take long. Listen, some of you ladies don't put on a lot of makeup. Some of you guys put a lot of makeup on. Vashti and these ladies have you guys beat. Now there was at the citadel in Susa a Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been taken into exile from Jerusalem with the captives. So now you understand how they find their way there. Joey takes longer than you, who have found their way into exile with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had exiled. He was bringing up Hadassah, that is Esther. So that's her real name, Hadassah, his uncle's daughter, for she had no father or mother. Now the young lady was beautiful of form and face. In other words, he's saying she was pretty from top to bottom. She was fine. And when her father and mother died, Mordecai took her on as his own daughter. So it came about that when the command and decree of the king were heard, and many young ladies were gathered to the citadel into the custody of Haggai, that Esther was taken to the king's palace into the custody of Haggai, who was in charge of the woman. Now the young lady pleased him and found favor with him, so he quickly provided her with her cosmetics and food, gave her 7 choice maids. So she must have been really something, because she found favor. Or maybe it wasn't that she was necessarily the best looking. I don't know. Could be. But she found favor. Well, oftentimes throughout the scriptures, a lot of people who are servants of the Lord, or who the Lord wants to use, he will cause those around them to have favor with you. I'll talk more about that in just a little bit, because I think that's really the main theme of this book. Esther did not make known her people or her kindred, for Mordecai had instructed her that she should not make them known, which is that they are Jews. At that point in time, being a Jew was not a good thing. Every day Mordecai walked back and forth in front of the court of the harem to learn how Esther was and how she fared, because to him, she is like a daughter. Now the turn of each young lady came to go into King Ahasuerus, and at the end of her 12 months under the regulations of the women, for the days of their beautification were completed as follows: 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with spices and cosmetics for women. The young lady would go into the king in this way. Now, by the way, this is not saying that this is a sexual act that she would go into the king. No, because it would actually, the verbiage would be reversed. So no, this is not a sexual act. Just go before his presence. Anything that she desired was given her, taken with her from the harem to the king's palace. In the evening, she would go in, and in the morning, she would return to the second harem, to the custody of Shashgaz. I should read the Hebrew way. The king's eunuch who was in charge of the concubines. She would not again go into the king unless the king delighted in her and she was summoned by name. Now, when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter, came to go to the king, she did not request anything except what Haggai, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the women, advised. And Esther found favor in the eyes of all who saw her. So now, here is the cool part about this, though. She is, one, she's obedient. She seems to be a pretty humble lady. She's obedient, and as a result, maybe there's more to it, we don't know, but she has found favor with all of those who were around her, which is pretty cool, right? Now, I want to jump to chapter 3. We won't belabor ourselves with the readiness process, but she has become queen. And so let's go to chapter 3, verse 1, and this is what we're going to deal with a person named Haman. Because of all the characters, there's just really 4 main characters. Obviously Mordecai, obviously Esther, the king, and Haman. There are some other characters such as Vashti and Haman's wife and some other people. These 2 guys have wanted to kill the king, but these are the 4 main characters, and you need to know about Haman. There's a reason why you want to know about Haman. Why? Because Haman should not be here in the first place. This speaks to the disobedience of the Jews. We'll get to that in a second. After these events, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and established authority over all the princes who were with him. All the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman, for the king had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai neither bowed nor paid homage. Now we got a problem, because here you got this person who, by the way, hates the Jews. We'll find out why in a second. Who hates the Jews, who has been, it has been commanded that everyone would bow and pay homage before him, but Mordecai does not. Here he is deciding, I'm not going to do whatever the government tells me to pay homage and bow to someone who is not my God. I saw something on one of these, it might have been Facebook, it might have been TikTok, it might have been, I'm not sure what it was, but someone asked the question, What would you rather have? $1 billion, eternal life, or a dead one returned to you? Now, how I take it, what he meant by eternal life is eternity in heaven. I would imagine, though, that there's a large number of professed Christians that would have taken the money. I imagine there's a large number of professed Christians who would have taken the money and hoped like heck that there's no God. That's what I would have thought. I'm pretty sure if you offered, and so let's just kind of change it up. What would you take? What would you rather have? $1 billion? 2, to be poor but have eternity in heaven? Or 3, to bring back any or every loved one that you're missing? I think a large portion of people would take the $1 billion. I think people would easily sell out their faith, which means they don't have any faith. I think you know why I think so? Because I see people sell out their faith for much less. I see people turn their backs on the word of God just for a promise that never comes true by some slick person in the pulpit. I see it happen all the time. Every day we can find it. I'm not talking about someone that might slip up and mess up here and there. I'm talking about someone that intentionally turns their back on the word of God. So you can't tell me that $1 billion would. I'll never forget this. We were having a discussion in prison. And in prison, one of the things people hate most are snitches. Why? Because a lot of guys someone told on them to the authorities, and that's why they're in prison. And so they don't like snitches. Personally, I don't have a problem with snitches. I don't have a problem with snitches at all. As a matter of fact, we need snitches. And I said, you guys do all this talking, but truth be told, everybody, every last one of you guys have a price. Not me. And then usually the guys that do the not me and talk the loudest were the ones that also told on someone else. But you guys fight over one stamp. So I know you'll fight over 5 extra years or 5 less years or 10 less years. And so I know Christians will do the exact same thing. A lot of professed Christians, that is. And again, we don't know who is a true Christian or not. And so we have to use the word professed Christian. And so a lot of professed Christians will turn their back for anything. A lot of professed Christians, if they said, hey, you got to bow down when Haman comes around, well, the law says I got to bow down. I'll do it. Well, the law says that a boy can be a girl. Well, the law says that a man can marry a man. The law says a lot of Christians will acquiesce because of this convenient excuse. The law says. Not Mordecai, which I think he is one of the most unsung heroes in the Bible. I'm not bowing down to anybody, much less you, Haman. Then the king's servant, who was at the king's gate, said to Mordecai, why are you transgressing the king's command? Now it was when they had spoken daily to him, and he would not listen to them, that they told Haman, listen, there's always somebody who is going to be there to help you get angry. There's always somebody there to egg you on and put a key in your back and make you feel more upset than you should be. Now, Haman doesn't like the Jews anyway, and they know that. And so, look, Haman. They told Haman to see whether Mordecai's reasons would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. Interestingly enough, Mordecai has told Esther not to reveal that she's a Jew, but Mordecai has let folks know that I'm a Jew, and I ain't bowing down to you. You ain't the God of Israel. I'm not bowing down to you. When Haman saw that Mordecai neither bowed nor paid homage to him, Haman was filled with rage, but he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had told him who the people of Mordecai were. Therefore, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, who were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. Now, Haman is not wanting to destroy the Jews just because of Mordecai. That's just added. That's just an extra reason. I can't stand this person, and I can't stand his people. The reason really why I can't stand this person is because I can't stand his people. And now I can't stand him even more, and I can't stand his people even more because of him. There are people that are really prejudicial or racist towards a particular group, and then when someone who represents that group comes around them, they already have a natural inclination to disdain this person. And then when the person does something, they hate the other group that it came from even more so. And so they see other people in that group who might do something bad, and then they'll take that person and lump them back in with this person. It's like this cycle. Well, where does Haman get this hatred for the Jews from? Well, I said before, this Haman should not be there. Haman should not be there at all. He should not be alive. Why is that? Well, let's go back to another portion of the Old Testament. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 15. Let's read this text here. Then Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint you king." Let's make this bigger over here as well. "To anoint you king over his people of Israel. Now therefore, listen to the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel." By the way, when did he do this to Israel? For what he did to Israel, this is Amalek had came against the children of Israel coming out of the Exodus. And so God has promised, remember, God does fulfill his word. Let me just pause right there. When God says that he's going to do something, he's going to do it. It might not happen when you think it's going to happen. And sometimes because it doesn't happen in your timing, you think that God is like you. God has promised that he is going to deal with the Amalekites, and he does. Well, who are the Amalekites here that he's speaking of? "Thus says the Lord of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he set himself against him on the way while he was coming up out of Egypt. Now go and strike, I'm looking at two things. Go and strike Amalek and utterly destroy, here it is, utterly destroy all that he has. And do not spare him, but put to death both man and woman, child, infant, ox, and sheep, camel, and donkeys. If they got roaches, get rid of them too. If they got grass, cut it and burn it. Whatever they got that is a descendant or a residue of them, get rid of it." And here's what happened, because Saul is who Saul is. Then Saul, by the way, why would you name your kid? I guess I can understand why you would name your child Saul. There are some nice Sauls out there. I understand, because there's another Saul who comes and redeems the name Saul. So then Saul summoned the people and numbered them in Telim 200,000 foot soldiers. Let's drop down, verse 5. Saul came to the city of Amalek, and he set an ambush in the valley. Saul said to the Kenites, "Go, depart, go down from among the Amalekites, so that I do not destroy you with them, for you showed kindness to all the sons of Israel when they came up." Drop down to verse 7. So Saul defeated the Amalekites from Havilah as you go to Shur, which is east of Egypt. He captured, here it is, he captured Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag, the best of the sheep, and the best of the oxen, fatlings, the lambs, and all that was good, that they were not willing to destroy them utterly, but everything despised and worthless they utterly destroyed. In other words, he wanted to keep the good stuff from King Agag. Wait a minute, we got a problem. King Agag. What is Haman? He's an Agagite. Now, I'll go back to Esther, but the reason why he's alive is because he did not kill Agag and his family. And so if you are a descendant of Agag, what does that make you? An Agagite. There should not be any Agagites remaining. King Agag and his family. So apparently somebody got away. Maybe he had a wife, a concubine, or someone that got away. Maybe he had a child. Someone got away. Now, when Saul shows up, Saul kills Agag. When Samuel shows up, he kills King Agag. But here's the point. If you do what you're supposed to do, then you will stop yourself from having any future pain. Well, in the case of Israel, there would not be this issue with Haman, but that's the reason why Haman is against all of the Jews. Amen? So now, I want to go to chapter 4. We're not going to read all of this, but do I want to read this? No, I have to. Actually, I'm sorry. I have to read this. I almost skipped this part. Vitally important. In the first month, which is in the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, that is the lot, was cast before Haman. And from that day, and from day to day, and from month to month, until the 12th month, that is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of all other people, and they do not observe the king's laws. So it is not the king's interest to let them remain. If it is pleasing to the king, let it be declared or decreed that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who will carry out or carry on the king's business, to put the king into the king's treasuries. Then the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman and the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. Again, there's always someone who will also want to take advantage of you, of your weakness, and clearly there's some weakness to this particular king. There clearly is. There's someone out here, O king, who is not your kind, goes against your rules. You shouldn't like these people. You should get rid of these people, and I'll help you to preserve you and your integrity and your great kingdom. So the king said to Haman, the silver is yours, and the people also, to do with them as you please. So what they do, they cast these particular lots for all this time to decide on killing these people. So now let's drop to, I won't bore you with the details. I'll let you guys read them. Let's go to chapter 4. And Mordecai learns of what was to happen. All that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the midst of the city and wailed loudly and bitterly. He went as far as the king's gate, for no one was to enter the king's gate clothed in sackcloth. In each of every province where the command had of the decree of the king came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, wailing, and many lay on sackcloth. Now, by the way, you ever notice that every time something bad happens, when you know you're in trouble, what do you want to do? When you know you're in trouble, God, where are you? You go to praying, you go to weeping, you decide, you know what? I'm in trouble, Lord. Let me fast. Let me fast to show you how much I love you. Now, I haven't shown you much love over the last, day, week, month, year, decade. But you know my heart, Lord. Let me fast so I can remind you of how much I love you. Okay. Then Esther's maiden and her eunuchs came and told her, and the queen writhed in great anguish, and she sent garments to clothe Mordecai. Now, I don't know how smart these people were. I don't. But it makes you wonder. You know that Mordecai is a Jew. You don't know that Esther is a Jew, but you know that Mordecai is Esther's uncle. It seems to me that if you put one and one together, you could easily come up with two. It just seems to me, but I don't know. Maybe no one was doing a lot of thinking in that at that time. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe they just thought, hey, that's my play uncle. Let's play like we're cousins. Maybe that was it. I don't know. Then Esther's maiden came and told her, and she sent garments to clothe Mordecai that he might remove his sackcloth from him, but he did not accept. Then Esther summoned Hathach from the king's eunuch, whom the king had appointed to attend her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai to learn what this was and why it was. So Hathach went out to Mordecai to the city square in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told him what was happening and the exact amount of money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict which had been issued. What's interesting is that you get letters telling you of the exact date of when you're going to be killed. It's almost better, you know what, just kill me without telling me you're going to kill me. Don't come and tell me, hey, on this date. Listen, I can tell you personally, when you know the date of your punishment, it's almost like when you were younger and you're in the car and your mother and father just said, wait till you get home. Just like my mother would say, yeah, I got something for you. Don't tell me, Mom. Just, listen, do it to me right now. I don't want you to do the waiting. That makes it more painful. Stop it. So he also gave him a copy of the text, and he showed Esther and informed her and to the order of her to go into the king to implore his favor and to plead with him for her. He came back and related Mordecai's word to her. Verse 10, then Esther spoke to Hathach and ordered him to reply to Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's province know that for any man or woman who comes to the king, into the king's inner court, who is not summoned, he has but one law, that he be put to death unless the king holds out to him the golden scepter so that he may live. And I have not been summoned to come before the king for 30 days. They related Esther's words to Mordecai. So now it seems like Esther's a little bit chicken. She's pretty, but she's also afraid. Verse 13, Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, do not imagine that you in the king's palace can escape any more than all the Jews. Now, I want you to listen to what Mordecai says. This tells you something about Mordecai. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not attained royalty for such a time as this, or for such time as this. We focus a lot on that phrase, for such a time as this. Who knows? Maybe you were put here for such a time as this. And sometimes that's applicable. Sometimes it's not. But we focus on that, and that's not the right thing to focus on. Let me just ask you guys who are waiting. What is the focus of what Mordecai just said? Did you catch what Mordecai said? We always skip this part, but we don't miss out on what he said. Don't miss out on what Mordecai is saying, and it's not for such a time as this. No, it's not take responsibility. No, Mordecai lets us know why he's the man. Mordecai is awesome. You know what? I should take Joey. I should rename Joey and call him Mordecai. That's what I should do. Mordecai is awesome. I'm sorry, Joey. You're more awesome. But think about Mordecai. Mordecai says something. Mordecai, doggone it. There you go, Isaac. There you go. Mordecai says, we won't go. Amen. Relief is going to come. Now, you'll die, you unfaithful little hag, you. No, I'm kidding. He didn't say that. But if you don't help out, you and your father's house will perish. But he says relief will come to us. He says relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. What does Mordecai have? He's got faith. Mordecai's like, this isn't just for show. I'm serious about this. The reason why you find me praying and the reason why you see me not bowing down to this other person, because they ain't God and I know who God is. Mordecai, Joseph Mordecai Minor. That would assume, Devontae, that Joey's last name is Minor. He's not. His last name is not Minor. Joey didn't have a last name. Some people are so cool, they don't have last names. Joey is one. And who knows whether you have attained royalty for such a time as this. So why would he say this? Why would Mordecai make this point? The reason is because salvation is going to come for the Jews. Maybe you are being put there to save the Jews. But salvation is going to come to the Jews. He's not saying that maybe you're here for such time as this to benefit you. No, it's because God is going to protect us. Some way, somehow, some fashion. Let's think about this for a second. Does this remind you of any other stories or any other people? Somebody else who is in a foreign land, whose God is not the God of Israel, who has been told to bow down and whose extinction is at hand, and they say, nope, sorry, ain't gonna do it, not gonna do it, sorry. And they say, what? Is there some other story that reminds you of this? Is there another story that kind of parallels this? Daniel, how about Daniel? Or how about those other three boys with Daniel? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These are people in the face of adversity, in the presence of their enemies, their faith doesn't wane. In the presence of their enemies, their faith doesn't wane. Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, go assemble all the Jews who are found in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens also will fast in the same way, and thus I will go into the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. If I die, I die. Kind of like the Hebrew boys. Maybe, maybe not. He might save us. We know he can. But even if he don't, I ain't bowing down to you. If I die, I die. So Mordecai went away and did just as Esther had commanded him. Now, again, what's the purpose of the fast? The purpose of the fast is not to get what you want. The purpose of the fast is to make your proximity even closer. As Isaiah says, to have your voice heard on high. Well, if you pray and ask for things, if your voice is heard on high, well then, amen. God might be more inclined to hear it, but it's not as though that God can't hear what you're asking for before the fast or after the fast or during the fast. No, it's to bring yourself in proximity to God, recognizing who he is. Amen. So Esther decides to have a banquet. Now, here's the cool part. This is the really cool part. And by the way, doggone it, Eric, I like how you put that. He says Mordecai stands on business, or as they say around here, business. Mordecai does. Mordecai is about that life. A lot of Christians, unfortunately, are not about that life. Isn't that sad to think about that, though, Eric? A lot of Christians aren't about that life. About what life? Whatever God says. Anybody ever seen Coming to America? And when when the Prince of Zamunda is about to be wedded and he sees his bride for the first time and he asks, well, let me get to know you better. What do you like? Whatever you like. Listen, that's how we ought to be as believers. Lord, when someone says, Rodney, what do you like? Whatever God likes. Sheila, what's your favorite color? Whatever God's favorite color is. Dinah, where you want to go? Wherever God wants me to go. Now, we do know folks like that who don't mean it. But we ought to be about that life, right? Right. So, now it came about on the third day that Esther put on her royal robes. By the way, where's Esther's faith? Think about this. Esther wasn't the only pretty girl there. Y'all do realize that when there's a harem and the king wants to start choosing women to be in his part of his concubines or choose to marry, listen, he ain't choosing the uglies. He ain't. I'm sorry, I don't know where some ladies rank, but on a scale of 1 to 10, he is not choosing the 2s. He's not choosing the 3s. He is choosing the 9s, the 10s, the 12s. On a scale of 1 to 10, he's choosing the 12s. So it's not that Esther was the only pretty girl there. There were other beautiful women there as well. Why is this important? Because what has Esther found out? What should she know by now? That there has been favor on her and her family all this time. Why then are you afraid that favor has all of a sudden disappeared? You're the only Jew there, and you have been shown even more favor than everyone else. You've got a weak husband, number one. So when you walk into his room, do you think he's gonna ignore you? No, he's not. So goes into the court. God is not going to take his favor off of you. Again, you know you were a Jew. You know your history. And so God is not going to take his favor off you. So he walks into and stands in the inner court of the king's palace in front of the king's room. And the king was sitting on his royal throne in the throne room opposite the entrance to the palace. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm gonna make a pivot. I'm gonna change. My daughter just got married, and so she moved out, and folks are wrangling over this extra room. I've decided what I'm gonna do. That's not gonna be an extra room for the kids or grandkids or anything else. I am going to make myself a throne room. I'm gonna get me a nice big chair and a TV, because I got to have a TV in my throne room. And it ain't got to be a throne, but it look like a throne. It's going to be a big, pretty comfy, throne-ish looking chair. And I'll sit in it. And then if my wife wants to talk to me, she has to come stand in front of the door, and I will extend my scepter, and I will say, you can come in. Nope, the cat can have this room. The cat, this camera, the computers, it can stay here. I'm going to have my own throne room. Me and Joey, I'll have a throne right here, and I'll have a little throne to the right, and put Joey in it. and nobody can come in. They have to stand at that door. And if I extend my scepter or the remote control, I will let someone else come in that room. That's what I'll do. That's what he's doing. He's staying in the throne room. And so if she decides to come in, or he allows her to come in, verse 2. When the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the court, by the way, honey, sweetheart, you didn't hear me say that. I was just joking. When the king saw Esther standing in the court, no, I'm not. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm not going to chicken out. No. I'm getting me a throne room. Yeah, woman. I'm getting me a throne room. And what? A throne room with a little throne for Joey, a TV and a remote. My remote is going to be my scepter. Listen, what'd you say, Eric? Mordecai was standing on business. I'm standing on business. Me, Joey, and a TV. Y'all gonna see breaking news. Corey Minor has now had to step down because him and his wife are getting divorced. Yeah, I'll be on the couch, Dre. I'll be on the couch. I'm kidding. But the king is in it. I don't know what the king is doing in his throne room, but I'm pretty sure he's bored. He didn't have the internet connection. Wi-Fi back then was not what it is today, so therefore he's just sitting around just. Here comes the most beautiful woman in the kingdom. She shows up. Come on in, honey. She obtained favor in his sight, and the king extended to Esther the golden scepter which was in his hand. So Esther came near and touched the top of the scepter. Wow. I extend my remote, and my wife, she comes and she touches the top. Where's the remote? I got a remote. Listen, where's it? I got a remote over here. So there it is. There's my remote. There it is. I extend the remote, and the wife can come and touch it. You may speak. See how far I get with that. Then the king said to her, "What is troubling you, Queen Esther? And what is your request? Even to half the kingdom, it shall be given you." Wow, she must really be gorgeous. You can have half of what you want. You can have anything. You can have whatever you want. Esther says, "If it pleases the king, may the king and Haman come this day to the banquet that I have prepared for him." Then the king said, "Bring Haman quickly, that he may do as Esther desires." So the king and Haman came to the banquet with which Esther had prepared. As they drank their wine at the banquet, the king said to Esther, "What is your petition? For it shall be granted to you. And what is your request? Even to half of the kingdom, it shall be done." So Esther replied, "My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and to do what I request, may the king and Haman come to the banquet which I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king says." Couple of things. Jeff says, "I hope that Bruce is healed." Couple of things. Why wouldn't she just go ahead and say what she's going to say right there? Why are you beating around the bush, Esther? Sometimes you just shouldn't be in a rush. This is where the preaching might start, ladies and gentlemen. This is where the preaching might pick up, or part of the preaching. This is the intro to the sermon. Do you have people that hate you? I wish I could raise both my feet. Do you have people that hate you? Sure. Even if you don't know them or who they are, there's somebody that doesn't, MLJ, there's somebody that don't like you. There's some folks, Dr. P, you know good and well, you don't get bald and not know that there's some people with hair who don't like you. As a matter of fact, speaking of somebody with hair who might be a hater, one of these guys with hair is probably hating on you that you're bald. And then somebody who's bald might be hating on the guy with hair, right? TT, Damon, there's somebody that hates you. Nobody's hating on monkey moves, so he thinks, but there's somebody hating on monkey moves. It might be Jeff. Somebody's hating on Linda. There's always somebody that's against you, no matter what. Now, can I give you some advice? Can I give you some real sound advice? Let me help you out, guys, because some of you haven't gotten this yet. Don't care. Make up your mind not to care. Don't be so bothered at the fact that people don't like you. That's going to be the same way from now on. When you were, think about it, when you were in kindergarten, people didn't like you. When you got to first grade, thinking it's going to get better, in elementary school, some kids picking on you. When you got to junior high, somebody didn't like you. When I get to high school, it's going to be different. Get to high school, it's going to be different. Get to college, somebody don't like you. You get to this job, somebody doesn't like you. Hey, guess what? When you have some kids, when you have kids and they're growing up, best believe somebody don't like you. That's how it is. What are you going to do about it? One of the worst things that we've done in this country is we have this anti-bullying campaign. Am I pro-bully? No, I'm not pro-bully, but I'm pro the lesson that you can learn from a bully. Yeah, we teach kids that they shouldn't have anyone to dislike them. We teach people that no one should ever look down. By the way, sometimes, let me just also be clear to help you out. Sometimes you give people a reason not to like you. Let's not act like that everyone hates you or doesn't like you or picks on you for no good reason. Sometimes you guys are jerks. Sometimes you guys are real boogers. Sometimes you guys need a punch in the mouth. It just is, right? Sometimes though, they don't like you just because. I promise you that if you're living godly, though, someone's also going to not like you just for that reason. Satan does desire to sift you like wheat. So somebody's going to come against you just because you're living godly. If they are because you're living godly, count it as a feather in your cap. Blessed are you when they revile you and say all sorts of evil things for my sake. Now, if it's for your own sake, that's different. That's different. If they hate you because you got it coming, that's different. But if they hate you for his sake, that's different. That's and expect it. And you got to deal with it. And don't be so in such a quick hurry to deal with your haters. Sometimes let them stew. Let them soak in it. Let them gather some more hatred. Let them just, I can't stand Corey. I hate him. I really hate him. That's not hate. It's not. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Because we all know what hate is. Rodney, I swear to God, I can't stand Rodney. I wish, listen, I wish a truck would run over Rodney and not even know it. Right? I wish a slow moving truck would run over Rodney. There are people like that. They want to see your demise. Let them. Let the sight of you irk them. Let the tone of your voice bother them. If you want to keep thinking about me, listen, I'll email you some pictures of me. Think about me some more. Y'all do know I know what I'm talking about in that regard. There's some folks that just want to see you. They're just obsessed with seeing you down. Can't get past the fact that you still breathe. They want to see you. You know what I need to do? I need to go ahead and get that Robert De Niro clip from The Untouchables, what he said about Elliot Ness. I want him dead. I want his family dead. Yeah, you know what? It got so bad that the guy talking bad about me every day, I just sent him put a comment. Thank you for thinking about me this early in the morning. I'm so glad that I'm on your mind. Praise God for you thinking about me. That bothered him even more. Decided to make 10 more videos about me. It should make you smile. It should make you smile when your enemies, if you haven't done wrong, it should make you smile when people want to say something about you and you haven't done anything to earn it. That is, if you know so. Don't bother me at all. Matter of fact, you want to make my day, make 10 more videos about me. Say something about me. Call me names. Make my day. It has a reverse effect. Sorry. You meant it for evil. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. I have learned, it took me a while to get this, but it took me a while to get this. I'm not bothered by you hating on me. When you come against me and come against God's people, you put yourself in the same position as who? As Satan.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
The majority of my life has always been battling church folk. It has never really been with the world. It's been with so-called Christians, church folk. Yeah, church folk.
I just felt like that needed to be put right there. I just felt like that was a perfect PSA. I don't get bothered when folks get upset with me. Get upset some more. Get upset some more. What are you going to do to me that God can't protect me from? And so that is that's the thought of Mordecai. And maybe Esther's getting it. She could have asked for him to deal with Mordecai right there at that moment. She didn't. What would have happened? What would have happened had she been hasty? Oh, I know what. The way that when you're hasty with your anger, what it does is it interferes with what God would do. Oh, since you want to handle it, fine, handle it, mister. Handle it, ma'am. There's something that has to happen, that's going to happen, because she does not move that fast. Well, what happens? Let's see. Then Haman went out that day glad, happy, and pleased of heart. But, there's one of them big buts right there. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and that he did not stand up or tremble. Some folks just want you to bow down and notice them. I'm not giving you the time of day. Kick rocks, bum. Mordecai is not moved or impressed by Haman at all. And Haman, that's what most of your haters don't hate you. They just hate the fact that you don't love them as much. That's what it is. They just hate the fact that you don't love them as much as that. You know what? They would leave you alone as long as you would bow. Think about and I know we haven't gotten to the New Testament yet, but do you know the Jews' biggest problem? The Pharisees' biggest problem? The Pharisees' biggest problem is this. Jesus was making more disciples. Remember when John the Baptist came out? The Pharisees came out to see him. And what did he say? He said, "You brood of vipers. What fruits of repentance do you bring?" So he knows, they want you. They don't care about you. Their interest isn't in hating you because of you. Their interest has more to do with you not loving them. They're shallow, vain, here's a word, narcissistic people. And if you don't give them the time of day, they're upset. Hold on. They're bothered. Everyone that is preoccupied with you is preoccupied with you because you're not preoccupied with them. You knew that. If you haven't learned that lesson, that was the lesson that your teacher was trying to tell you in first grade, in kindergarten, on the playgrounds, in the neighborhood. Some of you ladies know that. Some of you ladies know that. The reason why she's your friend is because you complimented her. The reason why she's your friend is because you told her nice things about her, but the moment it was time for her to be friendly to you, she wasn't there. I know what I'm talking about. Fellas, when times got rough, he wasn't there. You know why? Because you had ran out of uses for him. He no longer needed you. He's not there for you. He's there for you so that you could be there for him. That's why. And so, doggone us, well-placed knucklehead should have been right there. Knuckleheads. So, there's always somebody there who is after using you for their own benefit. The world doesn't love you. The world loves how they would love to see how it could use you. Chew you up, spit you out, and after you ran your course, your usefulness, bye. All right, on to the next person. They might show up at your funeral. I found this out when I asked folks to come to my sentencing. Could you come to my sentencing and say some nice things? Oh, Lord. Could you come to my sentencing and say some nice things on my behalf? Well, listen, man, I got to work that day. I don't know. That's a good drive. I really don't want to get involved. But whenever I needed them to do something for me, for whenever they needed me to do something for them, hey, Corey, could I borrow a few dollars? Could you do this for me? Can you this? Can you that? Johnny on the spot. Oh, I love you. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But now, when I need you, crickets. One person showed up. One person showed up and then told the judge, give him the max. I'm not upset with that either, because he probably should have told him to give him the max. But doggone it, none of my friends showed up. And then daddy's words rung true. Did your daddy ever tell you you'll be lucky if you can find one or two good friends in your entire life? No, Daddy, I got a bunch of friends. I got a bunch of friends. No, you don't. You got a bunch of folks that know your number. That's what you got. Can you close that for me? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Can you get Coconut out of here? Get Coconut. Yeah, I'm sorry. Coconut bus in here, and yeah. But if you can just find comfort in the fact that when you seem like you're by yourself, God's there, he's got your back, you're good. If people see that about you, then real friends show up. Right? So Haman ain't that kind. Y'all don't realize how many Hamans you got in your life, that they're all about themselves. You can't even be happy. Now, granted, he didn't know what he's in for, but he can't even be happy at the fact that you and the king are the only ones. You're so happy. Your happy turns to rage. Your happy turns to hate because you see a person who doesn't think highly of you, and that bothers you. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and that he did not stand up or tremble before him, Haman was filled with anger against Mordecai. Haman controlled himself, however, went to his house and sent for his friends and his wife Zeresh. I told you earlier, you can always find someone who, man, I'm upset. Come help me out. Help you do what? Help me be angrier. So what does he do? Because misery loves company, he sent for his friends and his horrible, rotten wife. Yeah, I called her rotten. Then Haman recounted to them the glory of his riches and the number of his sons. We'll talk about his sons. And every instance where the king had magnified him and how he had promoted him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman also said, even Esther the queen, let no one come but me with the king to the banquet that she had prepared. And tomorrow also I am invited by her with the king. Yet all of this does not satisfy me every time I see Corey Minor. No matter what's going on, every time I see Corey, every time I see Jasmine, every time I see ER, I want to throw something. Every time I've had a good day, but dog, I see Jeff, and I want to break something. Every time when I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate, just does something to me. Then Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends, because again, there's always somebody to help you be angry. You know what you can do? I got an idea. Have a gallows 50 cubits high made, and in the morning ask the king to have Mordecai hanged on it. Then go joyfully with the king to the banquet. You know what makes a hater happy? You know what makes a hater happy? You falling. If I could just make him crumble. If I could kill him. I can't kill him myself. I can't kill him myself because I'm too weak. But if I can get other people to kill him, if I can get other people to hate him like I hate him, if I can get other people to do my bidding because I can't do it, if I can get other people to make nasty comments, if I can get other people to say mean things at work, if I can get other people to make videos about you, if I can get other people to say all these different things, I'm good. It makes me feel good. If I can get somebody else to do it, that way at least it looks like my hands are clean. If I can get other people, kind of like oxymoron, what makes a hater happy? What makes a hater happy is that someone else can hate him also. That's what makes a hater happy. That's got to be tiring though, right? It's got to be tiring. Because you got to think about ways to hate people. I'm sorry, but have a gallows 50 cubits high is pretty high, ladies and gentlemen. It's about 70-something feet, right? That's pretty high. Make it high. We don't want to just kill him. We want to kill him publicly. And not just publicly. We want everybody to see. We want to, when he falls, when he dies, when he crumbles, we want it on YouTube. That's what we want on YouTube. We want it on Facebook. We want it on TikTok. That's what we want. Have Mordecai hanged on it. Then go joyfully with the king to the banquet. And the advice pleased Haman. So he had the gallows made. Now think about this. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. When did he have the gallows made? Well, he goes in the morning to see the king. He was so happy to destroy Mordecai that he went that moment. Had to be. He couldn't wait. He couldn't wait to get to work and get those gallows made. During that night, though, the king could not sleep, and he gave an order to bring the book of records, the chronicles, and they were read before the king. Do you all know, I don't know if you know this or not, but do you know that there is a king? Oh, I'm ready. Where's my organ at? I almost wish I was Pentecostal. I wish I was part of the Missionary Baptist Church. Do you know there is a king who has a book that he does read that has a record of all of your deeds, and you will be rewarded in accordance to those deeds. You got a king. We got a king that does not sleep. And here we've got a king who could not sleep that night. And what does he do? He's reading the book of the records, and they were read before the king. It was found written that you, thank you, Eric, with the piano, that you, or in this case, Mordecai, what he had done. Mordecai had reported concerning Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, who were doorkeepers, that they had sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. See, everybody ain't a hater. Everybody is not a hater. You need some friends like Mordecai, or just some good folks around who'll tell you about yourself, who'll be honest. These are people that wanted to kill the king. And so what does Mordecai do? Wait a minute. What do you mean, what does Mordecai do? We'll come back to this part. Let's go to Esther chapter 2. If I can spell Esther. Chapter 2:21. In those days, what's the king reading about? In those days, chapter 2, verse 21, in those days while Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's officials, from those who guarded the door, became angry and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. But the plot became known to Mordecai, and he told Queen Esther, and Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name. Now when the plot was investigated and found to be so, they were both hanged on gallows, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles in the king's presence. Wow. That's the kind of man that Mordecai is. And guess what? Mordecai was not rewarded at that moment. Doggone it, somebody ought to be shouting. Mordecai was not rewarded at that moment. Sometimes you do some stuff and you want to be rewarded right then and there. Did you see what I did? No, I didn't see what you did. Yeah, I saw what you did. Did you do it to get rewarded? Because if you did, then fine, I'll give you a pat on the back. Sometimes you don't receive a reward for what you do, but you shouldn't do certain things just to receive a reward. God is, we know he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek after him. If you go after the Lord in faith and you do certain things, God is going to reward you. Maybe not that time, but he says, be not weary in well-doing, you knuckleheads, because in due season, God is good. Do not be weary in well. God is going to reward you at the right time, at the appointed time. When the time comes together, what's the time that comes together? Remember, Esther could have told the king about Haman the day before. She waits. Why? This is how God just works, right? He just works this way. And so at the right time, now the king is up and he's reading about what was done. And so he says, doggone it, I got to do something about this. The king said, what honor or dignity has been bestowed on Mordecai for this? The king's servants who attended him, no longer Bethana and Teresh, they're not there. Nothing has been done for him. So the king said, who is in the court? Haman, the hater, is there. Your haters are they devise a plan for you. Haman, the world's greatest hater. I imagine if Haman were here right now, I imagine Haman would have made 90 videos about me. I imagine if Haman were alive today, I imagine Haman would go on everybody else's channel to talk about me. I imagine if Haman were here, he would get other folks to make videos about. I imagine if Haman were here, he would call up folks and have holy huddles about. I imagine if Haman were here, he'd be talking about you right now, Rodney. I imagine, Maria, if Haman were here today, or if a woman, Hamana, let's call it her, Hamana, if Hamana was here, she'd be running you down to her other friends. TT, I imagine Haman, if he were here, he'd be outside your house right now stalking. I imagine if Haman were here right now, Jasmine, she'd be typing things up right now and looking your name up. See if I can find something about him. I imagine if Haman were here, we would see some of the same things that we see today, that they just don't have the option to create a gallows 50 feet high. But whenever they get an opportunity to tear you down, they can't even sleep thinking about it. Can't sleep. So the king said, who was in the court? Haman, who cannot rest, because I hate this man. Haman the hater. And so, wait a second, let's make sure. All right. Haman, what just happened over here? I just clicked on something. I had to make sure something's not going right over here. All right, cool. Haman is outside. I can't wait for my plan to start happening. Now, Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace in order to speak to the king about hanging Mordecai on the gallows which he had prepared for him. The king's servants said to him, behold, Haman is standing in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, what is to be done for the man whom the king desires to honor? Let me just say this. Most of your haters, if they're true haters, most haters are narcissists. Most haters are real life professional narcissists. Most haters are about that life. What life? Hating. That's what I do. They got a card that says hater. In hate we trust. Here you've got this narcissist, Haman, who is so oblivious that no one else could be worthy of honor but him. Because that's all his friends ever do is talk about him and how wonderful he is. Because his friends are idiots and morons. They're just weak hanger-ons. They're lightweight haters. And lightweight haters hang out with heavyweight haters. And so they'll tell Haman everything that he wants. And so Haman is being asked, what should be done for the man who desires honor from the king? Haman said to himself, whom would the king desire to honor more than me? You are a narcissist, Haman. Haman, the narcissist hater. Then Haman said to the king, For the man whom the king desires, by the way, haters tend to have rules for others and not for themselves. Two sets of rules. They tend to be hypocrites. Haters are also hypocrites. Let them bring a royal robe which the king has worn, and a horse on which the king has ridden, and on whose head a royal crown has been placed, and let the robe and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble princes, and let them array the man whom the king desires to honor, and lead him on horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, thus it shall be done to the man whom the king desires to honor. I think that would be an awesome thing for you to do, king, for me. And the king says, you know what? You're absolutely right. Haman, take the robe quickly and the horse as you have said, and do so for Mordecai. Can you imagine Haman's jaw? Can you imagine Haman's jaw? And do so for Mordecai the Jew, who was sitting at the king's gate. Even the king knows that he's a Jew, sitting at the king's gate. And to know that there's a decree against the Jews in a short amount of time. Just when you think it's looking bad for you, you're going to start seeing some daylight. So Haman took the robe because he's got to, and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and led him on horseback through the city square, and proclaimed before him, thus it shall be done to the man whom the king desires honored. Wow, do you think Haman's upset now? Do you think he's upset now? But even more so. Even more so. Thank you. Someone just made a new account. I like that. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hurried home mourning with his head covered. He's just upset. He's just up. Yeah, I just said he was just punching air. I like that. Then Haman recounted to Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had happened to him. Because what do haters want to do? They want to go and find someone else to help them sulk, figure out new ways to hate. Then his wise men and Zeresh, his wife, said to him, if Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish origin, you will not overcome him, but will surely fall before him. Wait a minute. It's becoming clear. It's becoming clear. Maybe Zeresh isn't that stupid after all. Doggone it. Don't delete him, Catherine. Mordecai is getting in their head. Maybe you can't do anything to Mordecai. If God is on Mordecai's side, maybe you ought to leave him alone. Why? Because you will surely fall before him. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you tell a hater that. Why? Because the hater is so consumed with hate. What has Mordecai done to you? Nothing. Nothing. While they were still talking to him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hastily brought Haman to the banquet which Esther had prepared. And here it is. I mean, they ought to make a movie about this. They ought to make a movie about this. Now the king and Haman came to eat wine with Esther the queen. And the king said to Esther on the second day, as also they drank wine at the banquet, what is your request, queen? It shall be granted to you. And what is your request? Even to half the kingdom. I don't want half the kingdom. No. But if I found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases, let my life be given me as my petition and my people as my request. What do you mean? Who's trying to kill you? For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, and be annihilated. Huh? Who's trying to kill you? Who is trying to kill you? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a second. The king is asking. The king has got to be puzzled. The king has got to be puzzled. Who in the world wants to kill you, God's people?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
The majority of my life has always been battling church folk. It has never really been with the world. It's been with so-called Christians, church folk. Yeah, church folk.
Who is trying to kill you? Now, she says, if we had only been sold as slaves, men and women, I would remain silent, for the trouble would not be commensurate with the annoyance of the king. Then King Ahasuerus asked Queen Esther, who is he and where is he? Who would presume to do this? Esther said, a foe and an enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman, with his mouth wide open again for the second time today, became terrified before the king and queen. The king arose in his anger from drinking wine and went. The king was so upset. Do y'all remember when your parents got so? I've seen this. I've seen it too many times. Too many times where my mother or my father was so upset they couldn't say anything. You know what? Who is it? The king arose in anger from drinking his wine and went into the palace garden. But Haman stayed to beg for his life from the queen Esther, for he saw that harm had been determined against him by the king. Now, when the king returned from the palace garden in the palace where they were drinking, Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was. Then the king says, will he even assault the queen with me in the house? And the word went out of the king's mouth. They covered Haman's face. Then Harbona. I need to get me a Harbona. Then Harbona, one of the eunuchs who were before the king, said, behold, indeed, the gallows standing at Haman's house? You mean to tell me Haman built these gallows right outside of his house? You mean to tell me Haman built the gallows outside of his own house? He hated Mordecai that bad that he wanted the gallows outside of his own house. He wanted up close and personal look to see this man's destruction. Wow. You have built your house and everything around your house on hate. He put am I reading wrong? Behold, indeed, the gallows standing at Haman's house, 50. Your hate is so high that everybody, to look outside of the king's palace and see the gallows that high, your hate is so high that from the king's house, they can see it. From the king's palace, they can see it. Wow. The gallows standing at Haman's house, 50 cubits high, which Haman made for Mordecai, who spoke good on behalf of the king. Oh, now they're turning on you. Haman, they are turning on you. Yeah, Mordecai, he wanted to kill Mordecai. You know, the one that spoke good about you, king? The one that has blessed you? And the king said, hang Haman on it. We're not gonna let that hate go to waste. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Sometimes just let the king handle it. Sometimes let the king handle it. So they hanged Haman on the gallows, which he had prepared for Mordecai and the king's anger. Now, all this really is a testimony that is if you have been doing right by the Lord. High hater, I like that. A high hater. If you have been doing right by the Lord. I think somebody can testify that you've gone through some stuff. Some folks have been against you. But if you've been doing right for the Lord, it ain't going to be that long. It won't be that long for two things happen. Two things are going to happen. One, he's going to remove that hater. And two, he's going to give you confidence to know that in the presence of your enemy, I seem to recall, behold, he makes a place for you to eat in the presence of your enemies. Meaning your enemies are going to be there. They're going to be around. And you're going to get confidence that they can all sit and watch you. And you don't lose composure because your enemy is there. And whoever he needs to take care of, he'll take care of them. Now, here's the interesting thing, though. Here is the interesting thing. Haman's gone now, right? What does that mean? The fact that Haman is gone, what does that mean? Well, there seems to be an opening in the king's palace, right? There seems to be an opening. The king is hiring. The king is hiring, ladies and gentlemen. On that day, the king Ahasuerus gave the house of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther, and Mordecai came before the king for Esther had disclosed what he was to her. I'm sorry, I said that all wrong. Let me read that again. On that day, King Ahasuerus gave the house of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had disclosed what he was to her. So he finally tells the king who this man is to her. The king took off his signet ring, which he had taken away from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. You mean tell me gave him his house too? Wow. Well, wait a second. Hold on. Wait a second. That begs a question. If you're going to give to Mordecai Haman's house, wasn't somebody in Haman's house? Yeah, there was. There was somebody in Haman's house. We'll end here, but a couple things are going to happen. One, the people that are now occupying Haman's house, gone. Not just gone, because there's this decree to come against you. So what also happens? A counter decree. A counter decree happens to where now the Jews have been given power to fight against anyone that comes against them. Let's go to chapter 8. And let's keep reading. Then Esther spoke again to the king, fell at his feet, wept, and implored him to avert the evil schemes of Haman, the Agagite, and his plot which he had devised against the Jews. The king extended the golden scepter to Esther. Again, I got to get me one of these scepters. So Esther rose and stood before the king. Then she said, if it pleases the king, and if I have found favor before him, and the matter seems proper to the king, and I am pleasing in his sight, let it be written to revoke the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews who are in all the king's province. By the way, because you get one thing, one prayer answered, you don't have to say God has done enough for you. If you feel like if you felt like you've asked God enough for the day, you don't have to stop. Have you ever done that though? You prayed a prayer and asked God to bless you, and He did, and then you start. Keep asking. There's no limit to His goodness. I'm not saying He's going to give it to you, but still, there's no limit to His goodness. So keep asking. What's Esther doing? She's asking, hey, by the way, how about this? For how can I endure to see the calamity which will befall my people, and how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? So King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given you the house of Haman to Esther, and him they have hanged on the gallows, because he had stretched out his hands against the Jews. Now you write to the Jews as you see fit in the king's name, and seal it with the king's signet. For a decree which is written in the name of the king and sealed with the king's signet may not be revoked. So give something else. So the king's scribes were called at that time in the 3rd month on the 23rd day, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded to the Jews, the satraps and the governors and the princes of the provinces which extend from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces, to every province according to its script, and to every people according to their language as well. He wrote in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed it with the king's signet ring. Oh, by the way, and sent the letters by courier on horses riding on steeds, sired by this royal stud. In them the king granted the Jews who were in each city, in every city, the right to assemble and to defend themselves. So if anyone comes to you looking to do harm to you, kill them. Well, what happened? Well, the couriers hastened, verse 14, and impelled by the king's command, went out riding on the royal steeds, and the decree was given out at the citadel at Susa. Here it is. Then Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in the royal robes of blue and white, with a large crown of gold and a garment of fine linen and purple, in the city of Susa, and shouted and rejoiced. For the Jews there was light and gladness and joy and honor in each and every province, and in each and every city. Whenever the king's commandment and his decree arrived, there was gladness and joy for the Jews, a feast, a holiday, and many among the people of the land became Jew, for the dread of the Jews had fallen on them. And many among the people of the land became Jews. Wait a minute. Hold up. Stop the presses. Wait a minute. And many of the peoples of the land became Jews. Did you catch that? No, you didn't. Many of the people became Jews. Remember I said before that this ethnic national Israel Jew is not someone who is just Jewish by birth. And we talk about Caleb. What about these people? And many among the people of the land became Jews, for the dread of the Jews had fallen on them. Wow. You mean to tell me these people who were protected and defended when all was lost by God, who are Jews, I think I want that God to be my God. I think I want that God. Do you see what faith produces? Your faith produces other people's faith. How so? Jesus makes a statement. Let your light so shine so that people will see that light, your good work, and do what? Glorify God. That's how he works. You big knuckleheads. That's how he works. You're going through something. You're struggling. You're in pain. You got a health crisis. You got a financial crisis. You got a family crisis. You got a job crisis. You got an emotional crisis. And people see your peace, your faith through that. I want that. I want the same God that delivers them or that's kept them. That's the God that I want. Now do you see why sometimes God doesn't take it off of you when you want to take it off of you? Because somebody else needs to see what you're going. I want that God. I want that God. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, what also happens? This is where the Jews come together. The Jews assembled in their cities throughout all the provinces. This is chapter 9, verse 2 of King Ahasuerus, to lay hands on those who sought their harm, and no one could stand before them, for the dread of them had fallen on the people. So even those that actually came against them, they couldn't fight. Fear came upon them and they lost. Even all the princes of the provinces and satraps and governors and those who were doing the king's business assisted the Jews. So folks started turning on them because of the dread of Mordecai had fallen on them. Indeed, Mordecai was great in the king's house. Now, there's something else that needs to pop up that you need to see. Let's drop down, because Mordecai has a house, but there's some roaches. There's some bugs. There's some rats that need to be cleaned out of that house. Thus the Jews struck all their enemies with the sword, killing and destroying, and they did what they pleased to those who hated them. At the citadel in Susa, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men. And Parshandatha, Dalphon, Ashphatha, Paratha, Adelia, Aradatha, Permashta, Arisai, Aradai, Vizatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Jews' enemy. But they did not lay hands on the plunder. Who died? Those 10 sons. By Haman, by Hater, and your family. That's what God does. That's what God does. All of the folks, at some point in time, you know what you can do? I told you before what faith is. Faith is sitting in this chair and just relaxing. Not being bothered at all what your enemy is doing. Oh, my enemy's saying this about me. My enemy's doing that about me. Okay, what's God doing though? That should be my focus. That's got to, yeah, I see it's raining. I see it's storming. I catch that. We're in this little small boat and we're being moved back and forth. I see that. But what's Jesus doing? Oh, he's calm. I'm calm. I'm calm. Now, the disciples didn't catch that at first. You should catch it. We learn, Paul says that in Romans 15, that what was written in latter times was for our benefit. It wasn't written to us, but it was for our benefit. So we can, you mean to tell me there's nobody in the chats today that can learn from what Mordecai and the Jews went through? You can't learn how God blessed them. By the way, there's a feast, the Feast of Purim, which are a feast to kind of just, you know what, these lots that you guys are casting to have us killed, we're going to have a feast in honor of that. We're going to have a party to celebrate how it never came to be. Amen. So you should also party, celebrate how all the designs that the enemy had against you never came to be. You should always be ready to praise God for the things that he's delivered you from. You don't know, Corey. I've gone through a lot in my life. You big dummy. You big dumb knucklehead. I've gone through all. Corey, you don't know what all I've gone through in my life. You don't know the heartache, the turmoil, the pain. You big dummy knucklehead. All you just told me is what God has brought you through. All that you've gone through is all that you've gone through. At some point in time, the light should go on. There should be a connection in the brain. The synapse should start firing. All that you've gone through is all that he's brought you through. Did it kill you? It couldn't, because you're in the chats right now. It couldn't, because you're watching right now. That means you're alive. Therefore, what do you have that he's brought you through? Testimony after testimony after testimony. That is a sign to let you know that no matter what you've gone through, he's been there to bring you through to this time. Amen. Amen.